Nobody enjoys sentencing somebody to death.
I kind of enjoy it because now, even after I die, people are going to remember me forever.
All right, Mr. Eccles, the jury having found you guilty of capital murder, 3 counts in the death of Michael Moore, Chris Byers, and Steve Branch. When you read those words imposing the death sentence, I don't know if it was visible, but there was a catch in my throat. I could feel it. Well, on the 5th day of May of 1994, will be directed to cause to be administered a continuous intravenous injection of a lethal quantity of an ultra-short-acting barbiturate in combination with a chemical paralytic agent into your body until you are dead.
They're going to talk about me for years. People in West Memphis will tell their kids stories. It'll be like, sort of like I'm the West Memphis boogeyman. Little kids will be looking under their bed before they go to bed. Damien might be under there.
You're watching KATV Channel 7, the Spirit of Arkansas.
Today marks the 5-year anniversary of a West Memphis murder case that gained national attention. The bodies of 3 second graders, Stephen Branch, Christopher Byers, and Michael Moore, were found mutilated in a ditch. Now, one of the 3 men convicted for the murders, Damien Eccles, has prompted a hearing to try to get his conviction thrown out. Norris.
That hearing started today in Jonesboro, where the trial also took place. Damien Eccles is trying to avoid being executed by lethal injection. He's claiming he didn't get a fair trial because of misrepresentation by his attorneys.
I was saying what the police do.
Where then it does.
The West Memphis boogeyman.
Rumors begin.
Look inside there, there's not a soul.
Hopefully it's my last case.
I just want the truth.
Satanic.
I want the hatred.
And I hate this thing.
Well, Beth, right now the new attorneys, the appellate attorneys for Damien Eccles, are conducting a hearing inside this courtroom. They have on the stand a lawyer who represented one of Eccles' co-defendants at trial a few years ago. What they're trying to do is establish that the trial lawyers in this case who represented Damien Eccles were ineffective, that they were incompetent. The main argument is that they had a conflict of interest because they agreed to cooperate with filmmakers who were making a documentary about the case, an award-winning documentary called Paradise Lost. It was produced by HBO. The argument these attorneys are going to make is that because Damien Eccles' trial lawyers made an agreement to cooperate with those filmmakers, and the allegation is that they accepted money from those filmmakers, that created a conflict of interest.
Attorneys for Damien Eccles are appealing their client's conviction on Arkansas Rule 37, ineffective counsel.
I think one of the ironies about this motion is that a lot of the lawyers who are involved in it now, Ed Millett, Barry Scheck, Bob Fogelnest, high-profile lawyers, never would have heard of this case, before the documentary came out.
Daniel Stidham, he defended one of the 3 individuals convicted in this case, Jesse Miskelly.
Thank you for being with us. All right, Damien Eccles.
He received money which was supposed to aid in his defense. How does this
harm his trial, his right to a fair trial?
In my opinion, Greg, it didn't. I personally don't subscribe to that point of view.
Interesting. Let me turn now to Ray Brown.
He was a veteran criminal defense attorney and our colleague here at Court TV. Is there a conflict of interest here, Mr. Stidham, who was involved in it?
He himself doesn't think so. Let's get to the real question, Greg, which is
that because this country is in many areas so strongly in favor of death penalty, that we underfund the defense.
I think Mr. Stidham can tell you that he earned something like $19 an hour for his representation of his client. The lawyers for Eccles got a little bit more.
But nowhere near the money needed, and a $1,000 limit on money for experts in a case that is fairly saturated with scientific proof. So this is the kind of case in which we have to look at the question of whether the defendants were given a war chest, because it's really the argument of the defense here that, in fact, the lawyers for Eccles were forced to make some kind of an agreement that involved letting their clients' conversations be overheard because they didn't have the resources to fight the case.
Not something to be lightly tossed away or endangered. Daniel Stidham.
If you had had a lot of money, what would you have done with it?
Well, we would do some of the things that we're doing right now with regard to the forensic evidence.
All right, Dan Stidham, anybody who defends somebody in a capital death penalty case, I take my hat off to you. You're deserving of many thanks for that, regardless of the circumstances, guilt or innocent.
Marion, how much hope do you have of a favorable ruling?
Why is it so important for you to be here, for your son to see you in the courtroom?
There's no reason for them to be here. They were falsely accused. The West Memphis Police Department did a botched job just to get these boys arrested. Somebody had to be arrested. It's ridiculous.
Do you feel like the HBO film affected this case?
I think it helped a lot.
You think it helped?
Yes, I do.
It helped your son?
Yes, I think so.
Why is that?
I just think that it shows enough of both sides to where you can kind of see a personal side of Damien.
Do you feel like that his attorneys, that his former attorney did not do an adequate job?
Well, from what I'm seeing, it looks like he didn't.
What is the personal side of Damien? You know him better than anyone.
He's very much like myself. He usually keeps to himself and he doesn't really ever bother anyone. We're both very private.
So what do you hope happens when this wraps up?
I hope everyone can see this for the joke that it really is.
The reason I had made the West Memphis Boogeyman comment during the first film was because I was making light of the situation. I was joking. I didn't realize that, I didn't even comprehend that the situation could get this serious, that it could actually go this far. Because I was thinking, if you haven't done anything, then they can't prove that you did something you haven't actually done. That didn't make sense to me. Now I see they can. I wasn't even thinking about it whenever I said it, a spur-of-the-moment thing. But a lot of people, it seems, didn't take it that way.
You're not gonna be no boogeyman in West Memphis, because you're gonna be dead in hell.
Never been a moment that I've ever doubted that we did not arrest the right individuals. Never in my mind. There's never been a doubt. I can go to bed at night and sleep knowing that I did my job and did it well. If there was a doubt in my mind, I would still be on the police department, I'd still be working the case.
I have a pathological hatred of bullying and people in power crapping on people who have no ability to defend themselves. I believe in justice. I think, there are good people and bad people. There's people that do horrible things and they should be punished. Justice should be fair, it should be honourable, it should be decent, it should speak to our values as human beings, that right must prevail. And all that I could see in the case of the West Memphis Three is wrong was prevailing, and that wrong was being perpetrated by people who I believe knew they were doing wrong.
I had talked to Lori. She had come out to talk about the case. My attitude at the time was, we cannot do this. They were adamant that this should be and was a case about innocence. We don't want you to focus on death versus life without parole. This is a case about innocence. My reaction was, if it is a case about innocence, what they said is that there's all of this investigation that has to be done on the ground in Arkansas. And we're, a two-lawyer partnership in San Francisco. How are we possibly going to get the resources to get on the ground and really investigate a case in Arkansas? Lori Davis said, I'll find a way to do it.
I've quit my job, my other job, so that I could work full-time on the case.
So at that point, we thought we should put more funding into further DNA testing.
We're getting packages and shipments of all sorts of DNA samples that we're then forwarding on to our DNA expert.
Out there was a process that was going on that either would be the impetus for exoneration or would be the state's last chance to demonstrate in this highly controversial case that he was good for it. And Damien's reaction to that was that he was absolutely adamant about the DNA testing.
Of all the samples and all the various hairs and things that got tested, there was nothing. None of the DNA came back. Nothing matched Damien, Jason, or Jesse.
The Arkansas Supreme Court has denied every appeal by Damien Echols. The defense is counting on DNA testing to shed new light on the case.
This case was solved in 1994. And one day in Arkansas, they're going to inject Damien Echols, and he will pay with his life for what he has done to 3 little 8-year-old boys.
The biggest bombshell of the new defense investigation is that an unexplained hair that could be from another victim's stepfather was found on shoelaces at the crime scene.
Every appeal that has come up has caused grief and caused problems in the home. It brings back anger. Still today, to see their pictures or faces on the media, reliving it is a nightmare at times.
David Burnett tentatively set up hearings for next month to determine if there is enough evidence to overturn the convictions of the West Memphis Three. Defense attorneys want to present new DNA evidence they hope will lead to a new trial. Judge Burnett made it clear he could follow prosecutors' suggestions that the DNA evidence isn't enough for a new trial or to overturn the convictions.
If Judge Burnett rules in favor of the state's opinion on Echols' DNA pleading, this very well could be the end of the road for his defense.
As we sit here today, there are 272 post-conviction DNA exonerations. DNA is the essential element to prove their innocence, and these people have done more than 3,500 years in prison. On the other hand, there are many, many cases where there's been DNA that's helpful, as in the West Memphis 3 case, because it does shed light on other suspects, and it does put particular significance on the absence of evidence. There's an old phrase in the forensic science business that absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, when you have DNA testing and you've gone through every single piece of trace evidence at a crime scene, and you find nothing that links the defendants who've been convicted to the crime, that is significant.
This may be Damien Echols' final appeal at the state level. If his arguments are denied, the case then jumps into federal court. A decision is expected in about a week.
All of the investigative findings, the scientific result, including the DNA, all of that is going to be presented to Judge Burnett. Finally, Judge Burnett can consider this case with all this new information that wasn't available to him or the prosecution back in 1994. So we were looking forward to having him reevaluate the case. We really had high hopes.
Take a look at just how much support they have. Thousands of postcards, some as far away as Los Angeles, California, and Europe, all supporting the West Memphis Three.
Did you murder the little boys?
Well, I'd have to laugh at that and say there's something wrong with someone who would think that.
That stepfather denies having anything to do with the murders, and the Arkansas Attorney General's office said in the statement it will review and respond, but warns the legal process could take months and possibly years.
Do you feel that you're as close as ever to actually getting a new trial?
We get closer every day, yes. With the work that we're doing and the evidence that we're finally uncovering, I think we're getting closer all the time.
We wanted to give the Attorney General some sense that it was coming. We told him that there'd be these DNA results, and we got into a discussion. What would you really have to show to get a new trial? And there was a point of laughter. And one of them said, "We're going to set this bar as high as we possibly can," which is to say, we're going to try and get a court to rule that it is really impossible to ever win under the Arkansas DNA statute.